Hi everyone, this is Mary. You're in Mary Reads. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a book haul from the library, but I wanted to just make it very talkative, very informal. I did not write a script for this video, so I just wanted to talk to you, tell you about all of the books that I got because I have a lot. And then just maybe recommend something to you that you will hopefully like and would want to read as well. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books here. I think 3 of those are mine, and then the rest are from the library. I will explain why I got so much. I did not expect that. I was not planning it, but I learned how to use the library properly, and I got a little bit greedy. So before, I would just come to the branch of the library that I go to and just see what they have on the shelves, and just grab whatever I find interesting. But my friend told me that she's been doing holds recently. She's been placing holds on the book that she wants, and they would bring it to her in the next 2 days. So I was like, why don't I try doing it? I have a lot of books that I would like to read. Why not? And I started looking into holds, and it actually turned out to be super useful, super easy to do, and super fast. So I got greedy and got 9 books. And then I also stumbled upon a huge Agatha Christie section in one of the branches. And I was like, I have to get those. At some point, I really want to read all of the Agatha Christie. So I was very excited about those. And without further ado, let's dive into the books that I got. And hopefully you will find something that you like. The first book that I've already started reading is The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexandre Dumas. And I've been wanting to read this book for years now, but I was kind of like, maybe later. Dumas is historical fiction, it's classics, maybe at some point later, it's not gonna go anywhere. But then I was walking down the aisles in the library and I saw it and I'm like, why not? I think it's a sign. I haven't seen this book for so long, I forgot about it, and now I see it completely randomly, so why don't I get it? And with Dumas, I always have a problem that I can't align all of the books and create one chain of events. I feel like maybe I need to see all of his books and then place them exactly how they go, timeline wise, and then kind of read one after another to build a whole understanding. But for now, I'm just going to read this. It turns out that this is the last book of Three Musketeers series, which I did not expect. I read Three Musketeers 10 years ago, 12 years ago, so I kind of know the idea. I definitely don't remember the plot, but I know the main characters, so I decided to still read it, even though I probably lost some of the details. I thought that this book is going to be mostly about this mystery of who's hiding behind the Iron Mask, but it turns out that it's mostly about one of the Musketeers and his destiny and his fate, what happens to him in the end of the Musketeer story. It's still very interesting and entertaining. I've already read 200 pages, and I can't wait to see where it goes because I have no idea where it's going. But this is just something to keep in mind. If you expect to get this mystery of who's behind the Iron Mask, you're not going to get that, because you know right from the start that the person who is hiding behind this mask is the King Louis XIV brother. And what's more, it's his twin brother, and he was put in prison because the King Louis XIII did not want the competition between two brothers. Since they're twins, both of them can ask to be a king. Both of them can become a king. And he didn't want any sort of misunderstanding there. He didn't want to deal with any possible conflicts that might arise. So he put one of his sons in prison and the other one became a king. The next book is something that I've wanted to read for a while now, and I just wasn't sure I want to spend money on it. Because I'm not 100% sure that I'm gonna like it. And I've talked about this book in a video about the books that I want to read, and it's Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. And this is a story about a woman who starts a new career of being a host of one of the most popular cooking shows. It happens in like 1960s, as I understand. And not everybody's happy about her success because she is also teaching women how to stand their grounds. She's teaching women that they are allowed to have hopes and dreams that are separate from their husbands, and men are not happy with that. And I'm hoping to get, obviously, this movement, feminism movement, but also I really want to see the atmosphere of the 1960s. I want to see the atmosphere of these cooking shows. I really like when the food is one of the main focuses in the book, and hopefully this is going to be good. I did not expect that this edition is going to be so huge. I've always seen it in soft covers and it was much smaller. So I was like, whoa, this is a lot. But I'm very, very excited about it no matter what. And the next book is very unlike me, but recently I've been wanting to read science fiction. I don't know why. I've never liked science fiction and I've never read anything, maybe like 1 or 2 books throughout my whole reading journey. But I've seen the beginning of the movie that was based on the book and I really, really liked it. And I was like, we are not going to watch this movie until I finish the book. And the book is The Martian by Andy Weir. And there's another book by this author that I really want to read. It's Project Hail Mary, but I decided not to take that yet because it's going to be too much. Let's first see if I'm going to enjoy The Martian. But this is the book about the first expeditions to Mars. And the main character is stuck on the Mars because after the huge sandstorm, his team thought that he died and they had to leave him and go back to Earth. And now he has to survive on Mars just using whatever they had in their rocket or spaceship or whatever it is. And he will be trying to stay alive throughout these multiple years that it will take people from the Earth to get to him. I think it's very interesting. I really like the idea of the lonely person, not only in a different country, at a completely new planet, and with no people around him, no any creatures around him, trying to survive, grow crops, find water, just be able to sustain himself and not go crazy. I think this is going to be very, very interesting. And if I like this one, I'm going to take Project Hail Mary and hopefully I will like that as well. And now to the book that's not from the library. My husband's brother gave it to me. I've never heard of this book before, but we were discussing And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and he told me that there is a book that was written kind of similarly to Agatha Christie, and it's called 10. It's supposedly a horror thriller or horror mystery about 10, I think, teenagers that go to some sort of a house and they start dying. So I don't know anything else about this book. It looks like it's going to be very easy to read because the font is pretty big and it's only like 200 pages long. I'm really hoping to get a similar atmosphere. I'm really hoping to feel this like cold running down my spine. Hopefully it's going to be good. He told me that it's not written as well as Agatha Christie, but we'll see. I'm not necessarily worried about the language it's written in. I'm mostly interested in the plot, but we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited about this book, and I'm very happy he introduced me to it. And the next book is the one that we bought on our trip to Canada. I didn't want to show it in my Canada reading vlog. I decided to show it in a book haul. And I got this book because I've been hunting for it for a while. And it was before I figured out how to use the library properly. So I couldn't find this book in the bookstores, and it wasn't that I was looking for it, like going into every bookstore in my area looking specifically for this book and not finding it. But I was just browsing. Every time I went to a bookstore, I would try to look for this book and I would not succeed. And then in Canada, we decided to go to these nice bookstores. And the first one we go to, the first thing I see is this book, and I knew that I have to get it. And it's Yellowface by Rebecca Kuang. I've heard a lot about this book. Not everybody likes it, but I've read the plot and I listened to a couple of book bloggers who I really trust, and it looks like it's just going to be perfect for me. This book tells a story of two friends. They are both writers. One of them is a very, very popular and loved writer, but the other one is literally nobody. Nobody knows about her. Nobody's reading her books. And obviously there is an element of jealousy. And then at some point, our writer that everybody loves dies in a crazy accident, and the other writer, her friend, decides to steal her unpublished novel and say that it was her writing, because she explains it to herself. It doesn't matter who the story comes from, it's important that the story is told. So she publishes this book under her name, and she gets a lot of recognition from this book. Everybody starts liking her. Everybody is mesmerized by her work, and she realizes that there are going to be consequences of stealing this work from somebody else. And she's trying to cover for herself. She's trying to make sure that nobody finds out that it wasn't actually her who wrote this book. And I want to see how far she's willing to go, how this story is going to end, and hopefully get an understanding of how the publishing works, because it's obviously not just submitting your book and waiting for it to be published. It's much more than that. And I'm hoping to see this background of publishing a little bit more, but I'm super excited about this book. And if you've read this book before, please let me know if you enjoyed it. I look forward to reading this book so much. And then another book that my husband got for himself at a Canadian bookstore, but I really want to read this book as well. And it's Neil Gaiman's, I don't know, please let me know how to pronounce it correctly, because my husband pronounces Gaiman, I pronounce Gaiman, and I have no idea what's correct at this point. So it's Neil Gaiman's American Gods, and this is a story about a man who is being let out of prison, and his life changes completely. His wife was killed and he has nowhere to go. So a stranger offers him a job, and since he has nothing to lose, he takes the job, and starting from there, something crazy happens. I think this is somehow connected to gods, kind of like Greek gods, but more modern gods that live in America. My husband said that there is like a god of internet, and then a god of money, and a god of steel, and something else. So I'm very interested in where it's gonna go, how it's gonna be, what exactly the genre of this book is. I've never read anything by Neil Gaiman before, and I've never even heard of anything. I think Caroline, in the world of something something, there was a cartoon. I think it's his, but I'm not entirely sure. But if it is his, that's the only work I know by him. And other than that, I did not have any contact with this author. So I'm very excited about reading this book and trying to figure out what it is and what he writes. And now, I mentioned that I found a lot of Agatha Christie. and I couldn't stop myself from getting her books. I got 3, and let's move to those. The first one is the one I actually put on hold, is Body in the Library. This is a Miss Marple mystery, and I was very excited about it because I wanted to get Miss Marple specifically. I know a lot of Hercule Poirot, but I've never read anything about Miss Marple, and I've never watched a TV show or a movie with Miss Marple. So this is a completely new experience for me, and I'm very excited about it. In this particular novel, we read a story of a woman or a family who find out a body of a young woman in their library. She is dressed very, very well. She's wearing this evening gown and she's wearing a lot of makeup, but she's dead and nobody knows who she is. And her body is somehow connected to the remains of another woman that was found previously. And Miss Marple will be asked to solve this murder and figure out who these women are and who murdered them. The next book is also a Miss Marple mystery, and my friend actually recommended to me very, very strongly. She said that she loved it, and in the recent Agatha Christie's novels that she read, this is probably the one she enjoyed the most, and it's called A Murder is Announced. And I think I already said that it's also Miss Marple. And this is a story about a murder being announced in a newspaper. So somebody writes in a newspaper that a murder is going to take place at 6:30 tomorrow at this and this place. And obviously people don't believe that. They think that this is some sort of a joke, but they're interested. So they come to this place, and exactly at 6:30, the lights go out and they hear a shot. And when the lights go back on again, they see this horrible picture in front of their eyes. And we are going to try to solve this murder and see what exactly it was and who committed this crime. And Miss Marple is going to be again asked to come and figure out what happened. The next one is also Agatha Christie, but it's Hercule Poirot this time. And I started going through less known Hercule Poirot mysteries because obviously everybody knows about the death on the Nile, about the murder on the Orient Express, especially with these new movies coming out. But there are so many more Hercule Poirot novels that I haven't heard about before. And I have never even thought that something like that existed. And this one is called Dumb Witness, and it tells a story of a young woman who falls down from the stairs in her house, and the more she thinks about her fall, the more she starts thinking that some of her family members are trying to kill her, but they're trying to tell her that it wasn't them, and she just fell because she stepped on her dog's ball that the dog plays with. And she decides to write to Hercule Poirot to just make sure that she's not going crazy and there's actually something going on. But somehow the message only gets to Hercule Poirot a week later, and by then she is already dead. So Hercule Poirot will go to that house and try to figure out what happened and who from her family wanted to kill her and why. And we're now done with Agatha Christie. I am definitely going to get more of her novels that I will also tell you about later. But for now, that's it. I thought that 3 is enough, and it's too much to take more than that. And the next book is the one I also wanted to read for quite some time. It's called Stories from Tenants Downstairs. I have never heard of this book prior to me finding it in a bookstore, but it was like $30 for 100 pages of pretty big font, and I decided that it just doesn't make sense to pay that much for it. And then I kind of forgot about this book, and then I learned how to use the library, and I was like, why don't I check it out? Why don't I see if it's there, if the library has it? And they had it, and what's more, they had it available at the same day, and it was in one of the branches I often go to, so I just went there and grabbed the book. It tells a story of people who live in the same building, just in different apartments, in, I think, Harlem, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. Yes, it's Harlem. And they all have their own stories, but they're connected by the same fear. They don't want to be there, and they are worried about gentrification. They are scared about paying rent. They dread this day of having to pay rent. And we learn about these different stories about these people. And why I got excited about it so much is that a couple of years ago, for one of my university classes, I was watching this documentary about a social housing in New York, somewhere in Brooklyn, and it looked like it's a completely different world. These people live very, very separately from everybody else. They don't like outsiders coming on their territory. They know each other. They have specific rules they live by. And it feels like it was a completely different world. So I got so interested by that. And I was looking for books that would be kind of similar to that, that would give me the same feeling. And then I saw this one 2 years later, and I was very excited that I found it. And I'm really hoping that I'm going to get a similar feeling to what I got when I was watching that documentary. The next book is Classics, and I got it from the book swapping in my building. We have that little shelf. I think I told you about it before, and it's Jane Austen's Persuasion. I've read it before, and I just don't remember it. I've read all of Jane Austen's novels, but I only remember two of them, Emma and Pride and Prejudice. The other ones just kind of were erased from my brain. I don't know what happened there, but I decided to kind of reread this book and make sure that this time I remember it. It tells a story of a young woman who meets this, I think he's a sailor, is he? He's a naval officer, which is much better than sailor. And she is told to forget about him because he is courting this other lady. But I think she's going to be in love with him, and I assume he will fall in love with her as well. And we are going to get classic Jane Austen love story. And I'm really hoping to get her humor. I'm really hoping to get this very, very soft and warm feeling that I get with every other novel I read of hers. And yeah, I'm gonna read it again and tell you a little bit more about it once I'm done. And we finally got to the last book, and it's called Neverwhere, also by Neil Gaiman. I saw this book in the bookstore when I was there with my husband in Canada, and I was like, I already got Yellowface, I'm not getting another book today. But I started thinking about this book, and then I found it in the library and decided that I should absolutely get it. It's a sign. So this is a story about this underworld that exists under London, and nobody knows about it. And our main character saves this girl once. Her name is Dor. And after that, his life changes because he gets connected to this underworld, and he has to fight monsters, and he has to go through some sort of tasks. I don't know much about this book. I assume it's going to be some sort of fantasy, and I get a feeling that it's more of like a teenage book. I'm not sure. But it looked very interesting, and I thought that, well, if I'm getting to know Neil Gaiman, I should get to know him by more than one book. So I got this one as well. And these were all the books. It's definitely a lot. I did not expect to have so many. My usual book hauls are like 6, maybe 8 books. Now I got like, what, 12? That is more than I usually do. But again, I got greedy, and I don't think I'll be able to read all of these in 3 weeks that the library gave them to me for. But I will be extending as many of them as possible because I'm very excited about those. And I did not want to take them later because I know that they tend to be given to other people, and then you just have to continue waiting. You have to kind of, fight for those books, try to find them in different branches and wait for the holds. And this time I ended up being the first one in line. So I'm like, I have to get them now. Hopefully you found some of the books that you thought you might be interested in reading. Please let me know if you did find those books and which of those you are interested in. And I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.